H-U-L-L-C-I-T-Y. That's all we need.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Tigers Down Under. I'm your host, Alex, and with me I have Dan. How are you, Dan?
Yeah, pretty good. I think 3 episodes in a row now and 3 wins in a row. So might have to keep coming on while I'm on break.
Yeah, we're on a hot streak, aren't we? Yeah, look, we've done pretty well. I think we did the episode early last week as I was starting to come down with something, and now I'm just on the other side of RSV. So I've managed to straddle the episodes quite well with that. It does mean I didn't actually catch the West Brom game live, so I'm going to lean on you a little bit more to do the talking on the game. I've seen the highlights. I've seen, so I guess the key talking points. Yeah, I guess, you know, like as an overall comment, like 3 wins in a row, top 4 coming into Christmas. I don't think anyone could have, expected this in our wildest dreams. I think it will be interesting. I think I might, in the next couple of weeks, try and go back and listen to that preseason episode just to see exactly what we were all thinking about Jakirovic, what we were all thinking about finishing position potentially. I think, to be fair, like I've seen a lot of pushback on sort of neutral assessments of Jakirovic from preseason, where everyone sort of said, he's no good and like he's like this unknown foreign manager, and everyone's sort of rubbishing all those neutrals for saying that. And I was like, I feel like we as City fans are probably pretty similar after what happened with Volta last season. But yeah, can't have expected anything, much better than this coming into Christmas.
Yeah, it's just about the perfect Christmas gift. It's been a nice little, obviously a good first half of the season. I guess like the last, I think we worried a couple of weeks ago that we'd had our little blip where, with the Ipswich, the Boro game, and where we kind of went, are the wheels falling off? Is it all sort of, are we coming undone? But teams figured out how to play against us. But I think since that, where we kind of just called for a response, a 90-minute performance, those sorts of things that we've seen, now a couple of, I would say probably 2 really good performances, really good wins, and the one against West Brom, not the best win, but it's one of those ones, sorry, where right. You kind of need to win some of those games where you're definitely not at your best, where it's just not quite working, where you try something new and it doesn't work out, but you're able to adapt and you're able to withstand the pressure and not concede and then be able to make the changes, which is something that
100%. No, I think that's right. Like the fact that we switched to that 4-4-2, we had all, like we've always talked about the fact that we wanted to have Miller, Ballumi, McBurney all starting together, throw Joseph in as well to see what that's like as a front 4 essentially, and thinking, we're going to be so attacking, it's going to be amazing. And it didn't quite work out, and the fact that we were able to try that and still come away with the 3 points and a clean sheet is such a valuable process.
Yeah, I think had it been any other day, I think West Brom takes the lead very early on. They had a sitter which they skied from 6 yards out somehow, poor fella. But I think we've talked about it before. Sometimes in those good seasons, in successful seasons, the best teams, you have to ride your luck a little bit. And it's kind of felt like, I think early in the season, these are the sort of moments that were going against us where, they were conceding, or we were, giving away a penalty or whatever it was. And I kind of sort of felt that maybe recently that luck has been on our side a little bit more, especially in probably these last couple of games. You think of Liam Miller not getting sent off, in the last one. You sort of look at some of these moments where you watch them tear us apart, you watch the ball come in the middle, you go, we've conceded after 6 minutes or something, and then they sky it over the bar, and you just go, that is a get out of jail free card. I think the first half, the first half of that game against West Brom was not very good. It was not very pretty. The two, or I suppose because it was only Slater and Crooks, just never really were able to establish a foothold to get on the ball and really do anything with it. And so we really struggled to get out in any serious way, apart from just sort of like lobbing it to the wings, to Balumi or to Miller to try and do something and get down. But I think sort of the key is that, well, actually, I suppose the other thing, sorry, I'm just jumping all over the place, was heaps of injury time in that first half, because Hughes took a huge knock early on, spent a lot of time on the ground, and then looked all money was going to be subbed off.
I'm surprised he continued.
Got up, played the thing. Instagram after the game, got an inch-long gash along his forehead, and you just go, I guess my only concern coming out of that is he going to, like, if they fudged it or whatever, like, is he going to pass concussion protocols moving forward? Like, is there a risk of that? I'm sure there has to be a follow-up assessment after the game or whatever, the days afterwards, for a huge head knock like that. Is there a risk that he has to sit out the Wednesday game because of something? If he
misses the Wednesday game, I guess Famuo, it's the perfect game for Famuo to get a start against his old mob at least.
That's true, but I thought despite that huge knock, I thought Hughes had a great game. Maybe even just because of that, because he took that huge blow and then soldiered on. I think it's sort of been a thing where sometimes, I don't know, players aren't willing at times to just put themselves, I guess, like, put their body on the line for the cause, because I guess the risk of, obviously, like, there's a risk with those things that you get injured, you make it worse or whatever. And so I guess it's just good to see. I know we kind of know he's a bit of a battler back there, but it was good to see him stick it out and sort of recover from that knock and put in, I thought what was a pretty strong performance. There was a few really important challenges in the second half as well. But I think just a messy game that we just never really could quite do enough to get away with. I think there was a chance real late on once Destin came on that Giles whipped across. A great ball from Giles, which you go, McBurney buries that almost certainly. But Destin was just sort of a half a step off and wasn't quite getting in, didn't quite get there to get to contact. But that they're almost the most significant goal contributions I can think of, obviously apart from like the penalty.
Which is just like
it was a cheeky penalty, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, the finish itself was very cheeky. But to your point about our luck, and you even think just a few weeks ago there were clear penalties that we weren't getting given, where it does start to feel like, and maybe it's just more coincidence than anything else, but it feels like we're starting to get more of that luck going our way. Where in this case it was definitely a penalty, but even me watching 2 or 3 replays took me until probably the 4th replay to go, oh, yep, it is a clear penalty. Like I just had to see the right angle, where you go, that's me with 3 or 4 different TV screen angles where the replays slowed down. The fact that they called it in live time and got it correct, like it's really, quite fortunate in some ways, because it is one of those ones. Actually, I saw it was a really similar one to the one in the Everton Arsenal game, where it's sort of like the hand in the air above the head, where you go, if you blink and miss it, like it doesn't look so obvious, but it's such a clear penalty when you actually see it. And then McBurney finishes down the middle. It's like that. He's just full of confidence. Like he just, you watch him sort of step up for that, and he just has no doubt that he's putting it away.
Yeah, I think you shared the stats. He's the quickest City player to reach 10 goals. I think that was Nathaniel from our friends at Tahallenbach had actually tweeted that one out, where I think, 14 games or something to get to 10 goals in all comps, and it's like 10 games better than the next best, which was I can't remember now off the top of my head. I'm gonna have a quick look, but maybe it was Oscar. I think it was Oscar did it in 24. Oh yeah,
and we always think of Oscar as being really
good.
Yeah.
It was just like I think I thought I always thought that, like, when we signed him, I thought, he's a big striker. He'll have, like, I thought he would score goals. I don't think I really expected this level of output from him necessarily, but I'm certainly not complaining. I just think when you look at the forward line, and you've got, obviously Gelhardt, he's out at the minute, but he's got his 10 goals in the league. McBurney's on 9 in the league. Joseph's on, what is Joseph on now? Is it 6 now?
6, yeah.
Yeah. Destin's got a couple, and you just go through all of those players, and you're going, well, actually everyone's kind of scoring, and the numbers are actually like eerily similar in a lot of respects to the Rosenia season, which is really interesting when you look at how heavily we were criticized. Obviously, like, I think way more attacking. Like, I think we're scoring. I'd be interested to see. Actually, I don't think we've actually scored that many more.
No,
but we've won more. I
think we've got slightly more points. And I think a few weeks ago I did try to do a bit of a calc to say, if we continued scoring at this rate, how many goals would we get? And I think it works out to about 6 goals more than the Rosenia season, which sounds like a lot. It's something like 72 to 66 or something like that. Yeah. But then you think, compare that to some actually proper defensive seasons, and you like all the way back to sort of the season under Nigel Pearson where we scored something like 45 goals, and you're going, it's like 28 goals less than that season. I'm like, 6 goals less than Rosenia doesn't actually end up being that much of a difference.
Yeah,
but I would agree. Like, I think the general play, like the pace of the attack and everything, is probably what is exciting people more about this season.
Yeah, and it's just a weird, interesting. Like, you look at that's the kind of the almost war, the season that almost was, where we just missed out on playoffs and all of that. And I think we're a little bit better off on points, but I think the difference is in the wins. I think under Rosenia, to get our 36 points or whatever, there was maybe like I feel like it was one of those ones where we'd picked up more draws than wins. So it might have only been 10 wins or whatever, but it was 7 draws or something, and we've got like 12 wins and it's only like 3 or 4 draws. So we're getting more wins, and which I think is kind of key to where we're at. It's I think it's like double or more than double, like the win, or it's more wins than we had all of last season. That's what it was.
It's crazy.
At this stage already, which is wild. So I think we are, we're in a good spot. We've won well. We're winning winning when we're poor. We're kind of doing it all. We're getting all our big guns back, and now it's kind of now just sort of we're able to even tweak the system, see how we're going to fit these players in, what's going to be the best sort of 11, how do we balance all of those attacking players, and keeping our the system working, which I think we've got ourselves in a really good position. And to be sort of fourth and flirting with the ideas about promotion, and I'm sure there are a couple of highly optimistic people who are probably even talking about chasing down the top 2. But
yeah, I was going to say, I thought you were going to say flirting with autos. Isn't that chasing down Middlesbrough?
Maybe. I'll entertain that conversation if we beat them in a couple of games' time.
Fair point.
But it's interesting when you think about, like, I know we were pretty optimistic in the season under Rosenia, but I feel like the level of optimistic at the moment, not quite, mate, is just sort of up another gear than what, even despite like the similarity between a lot of the stats. So just an interesting thing. But the West Brom game itself, real crap to watch, but we got the win.
Absolutely. Well, look, I'll grab your votes for this game, and then we can chat Wednesday and Boro.
Alrighty. So 3, 2, 1. I know which players I want to give it to. I'm just trying to decide on the order. Let's go. I'm going to give 3 points to Charlie Hughes for everything I spoke about before, copying that giant knock, recovering enough to then play a really important role in keeping us keeping the clean sheet. I'm going to give 2 points to Ryan Giles, who I thought had another really strong game. Probably should have had an assist in the sort of chance that I mentioned, and a point to our goal scorer, Ollie McBurney.
Nice. I've gone reasonably similar. I went Hughes for the 3 votes. I actually went Egan for the 2. I just thought the defense in general, keeping it a clean sheet in that game was really commendable. And then, Giles for the 1 vote. I thought, another great game from him. As you say, that opportunity he created for Destin towards the end, really promising. So all around a great performance, I thought. And 3 votes for defenders, but I feel like they were sort of the glue in this game to sort of hold us together and get the clean sheet and keep us moving forward. And it's really actually it's a good call out is that since halftime in that Boro game where we'd conceded the 4 goals, we've only conceded 1 goal since then. So for all the critics and criticisms of our defense and how open we've been, we've actually tightened things up quite well over the last couple of games, which has been really good to see, because I think once you start to get into this position, top 6, top 4, starting to look maybe even further up the table, you can start to think about going, okay, well, actually, maybe we just start grinding out results. Like you look at Arsenal over the weekend, ground out a 1-0 against Everton, and you think, if you keep winning games, the teams behind you can't really catch up to you. You just keep getting the wins going. So if we can just keep grinding out the wins, I think that's sort of the main thing at this point of the season. Okay, we'll talk Sheffield Wednesday and Boro together. I guess also coupled with the news / rumor that we saw overnight around David Akintola potentially. I think the wording of the report was that we were parting ways, but I suspect that's probably a little bit sensationalist. And if there's any truth to it, it's probably more about getting a loan deal for him or a sale, sort of like we did with Lakilo, where we went, not the greatest. We'll see if we can find someone to take him on loan for a second half of the season. I guess it sort of goes to a point that I'd made a few weeks ago about the fact that we've got Ndala and Akintola in the wings, not necessarily contributing a whole lot, where if we could almost bundle them together and get their wages off the books, and you get someone like a Kamara back, or you try and find someone else to bring them in on loan to offer a bit more of attacking threat in the January window, that might be more useful for the side. But I guess, there's a whole lot of action to go in January in that sense. But before that, we do have these 2 games to talk about as well. So Wednesday, I guess maybe the biggest banana skin is the fact that we might just go into that game a bit too complacent. But Boro is obviously a great opportunity to get revenge after that 4-1 loss. So any thoughts on those 2 games?
Apart from we should just keep on rolling on, I think the Sheffield Wednesday game, potentially that could pose itself as a tricky one, but I just think they're just not traveling well at all. I think that the craziest I could see is if we manage to draw against them. I can't see us losing the game at all. When I looked the other day, they had 1 win and 7 draws or something. So they're in free fall just about. So I can't see much coming from them.
2 players off at AFCON as well. I think they're the most heavily impacted side by AFCON in the division, which is pretty ridiculous given their position. So nothing really going their way.
The Boro game though is, I think, a really interesting proposition. I think we can. All the players can admit they weren't up to it, or they didn't turn up, particularly for the first half against Boro in the last game. So be interesting to see. Sure, I would hope that they're at least motivated to come out, and it'd be interesting to see what that sort of reverse fixture, what this looks like, and whether if we can get going and identify the ways in which they stopped us from playing the way we wanted to last time. If we can get going, and what sort of damage we can do to them instead of being torn apart by them again.
It sounds as well like Riley McRae's out injured. I actually missed that news. So not great news for them, obviously not great news for the Socceroos either, but for the short term against us, as in Hull, that's probably, a reasonable out for them. Obviously lost last time out against Bristol City as well. So, the unbeaten or the winning streak to start Helbieg's time in charge has come to an end. So maybe back down to earth a little bit, opens the door a little bit for us. And, on the presumption that we win against Wednesday, we're kind of going into that game with 4 wins in a row, full of confidence, and really should be in an opportunity to really give them a game. McBurney back as well, Bellamy back as well, Miller back as well. So strong squad for that one as well. In terms of squad rotation, it'll be an interesting one because we've got the week before the Wednesday game, so not really a need to rest players for that one. But then the Boro game's only a few days later, so I will be curious to see maybe a Destan gets a start against Wednesday instead of McBurney. Maybe an Ndala gets a start instead of a Miller, stuff like that. But you don't want to go too weak, so it's a little bit of an interesting one from that perspective.
Yeah, I think I would be okay with some rotation in the forward line, given pretty much like they're all sort of still really in the injury return sort of bracket. Even Bellamy, I think, still sort of fits in that bracket. It's still pretty early in his return, but I'd be okay with making some switches, I think, for the Wednesday game. Worst case, if you've got a reasonably strong, backline and midfield, worst case, then you can, sub on your big guns at half time and they play 45 and go and score a couple of goals and we win anyway. But yeah, because you've got obviously Joseph can play out wide if he has to. You could bring Destan in. You've got someone like Ndala, so you could make up which would still be a reasonably strong front line. But yeah, I think definitely for the Boro game, we need to be able to put out our best 11.
An interesting one that also just occurred to me when you're talking about the defense is obviously Giles is playing just about every game. I wonder if there'd be any sort of thought to getting someone like a Cody Drame in for a start at right back and then flicking Coyle across or doing something like that, just so that, I don't know if Giles has really had much of a rest. He's had a few, halftime subs and that sort of thing, but we don't have that many options at left back. So whether we try and give him a bit of a rest in one of these games, potentially, or even if it is just like a halftime sub sort of situation, it just, touch wood, but you just think about all sorts of situations that can occur over these Christmas periods where if anyone sort of picks up a niggle and suddenly misses 3 games just because they're out for a week, you want to make sure that it's not happening in the Wednesday game. And yeah, as you say, you want to have your best 11 available for the Boro game.
Yeah, I guess the other thing you could, I'm not sure if you said it, the connection went a bit spotty for a sec there, was, I know you said maybe Drame or something, but could Famulo's come on at left back a few times this season, might be a good opportunity. That's sort of right. You obviously don't want to make too many changes, so if I was changing that, I maybe wouldn't be changing as many of the front line or whatever, but it's a good shout as well. He's played a lot of minutes, he's probably played the most of anyone.
Apart from Panda, probably.
Yeah, maybe apart from Panda, but apart, because there was a few weeks he had a couple of subs in a row, but yeah, I think it's not a bad shout with the heavy fixture, the heavy fixture period coming up. So yeah, I don't know. Probably I think rotate for Wednesday and then try and get back to your best 11 for Boro, which probably but I think I'd be over the moon with I think 4 points would probably do it. I think I'd be okay with 4 points from the 2. I'd be 6 points. I'd be over the moon, and you'd go, holy, we've just gone 5 wins in a row. But yeah, I don't.
I think if we win these next 2 games, I do think you seriously have to start talking about the possibility of automatics without getting too carried away. Yeah, I think if we're beating Boro,
if you win the next 2, and then depending on what happens with Boro's other game, you could end up 3 points behind or no points behind Boro, depending on.
You could be ahead of them if they drop points against. I think they've got Blackburn, I think. Obviously, also depends on what Ipswich do, but there's a prospect where if we win our next 2 games, we're second, which is kind of crazy.
Which is So I'm going to call that an outside chance, just to keep things a little bit more realistic, just to keep Mike happy. He's our resident pessimist, so. Look, I don't know. I think the thing is, it's such a good season, and we're all enjoying ourselves, and we're able to entertain those sorts of conversations and things, which is a nice change for once. Because I think even like we never really had this sort of conversation in the Rosenia season.
Not for top two, because top two was locked off. Yeah,
but we were talking like even with how similar some of those figures and stuff are between this season and that. We never entertained even top 6 felt like possible but fanciful. And I think at the beginning of this season, it felt we've kind of gone the other way. It felt fanciful, and now it feels like possible, probably even probable. So I don't know. It's just whatever Jurkiewicz has put in the water at the MKM or at Cottingham, just keep it up, because it's doing wonders. And I think I think when you look at someone like Giles, and how Jurkiewicz has said like his little project when he came in was to try and get the best out of Ryan Giles, and he well and truly has. I think you mentioned Kamara before as someone who maybe comes back in January. He's not really having a very successful loan spell in Spain. I think it worked with Giles. Kamara could be exactly the right sort of person who would benefit from that same sort of approach. We go, I'm going to get you firing, and he could just go like, look, Giles hasn't travelled, had the best career to like at City to start, but I've come in and I've got him going. I can do that to you as well. And if you then still want to move on at the end of the season, at least you've got 6 months of positive, productive football. Like you'll get some game time, which is probably more than you can say at the moment overseas.
And I think with everything that can get said about Kamara, I think definitely his attitude or his body language is probably the one that people find the most issue with, because I look at the fact he had 6 goals, 3 assists last season in a team that finished 21st, and you think like that's actually a pretty reasonable return. Like it's not, I can't imagine people are necessarily critical of his output, I would hope anyway. And you think about the fact that was his first season in the Championship, where he was expecting to be a bench player behind Miller and Bellumi, and then suddenly became sort of the most regular attacking asset that we had.
Well, you look at Joseph. Joseph's got 6 goals, and everyone's over the moon about his contribution. So,
yeah, that's right. And so you think like if Kamara came back in and he was a rotation option for Miller and Bellumi and Joseph and McBurney, he'd be much more relaxed from that perspective, playing in a much more attacking team. I wouldn't be against bringing him back at all. And then just on your point about sort of being optimistic, I just find like I don't want to get carried away to the point that you start to think, sack Jurkiewicz if we don't make top 2 sort of thing. Like I don't want to go down the Ajun road of thinking with some of that stuff. But I think in football, if you can't get carried away and get excited a little bit, I just don't know what the point is, because if you're constantly just waiting for disappointment, and then when it happens, you go, I thought it wouldn't happen. You go, I didn't get to enjoy the optimism and the hope along the way. Like, it doesn't seem worth it.
Yeah, I think it's part of the journey. We suffer through all the horrible seasons. We suffer through the relegations. We suffer through, the poor times, so that we do get to enjoy it at the moment, and we've earned the right to get carried away after watching ourselves get almost relegated last season after getting relegated. What is it, about 5 years ago now?
5 years ago, 6 seasons ago, yeah.
Yeah, so like we've watched all that, as well as a few relegations from the Premier League. Like, I think you're absolutely right. You suffer through all that so that when you have these sorts of moments or seasons, or even if it's a half season, you go, it's worth it just to be on the ride and be excited and enjoy watching football again. I think last season it was such a drag to get myself out of bed at 2 a.m. to watch games and just go like, what dour display are we going to put on? Are we going to be able to nick a goal or something? Whereas you turn it on and like I know the bad week for an example, like it was a pretty dour game against West Brom, but like even like I woke up expecting to be entertained, and it was a little bit, it was a little bit disappointing that I wasn't super entertained, but there was still enough, there was still enough there. I think, when you talk about all of the other stuff, because we're winning, you can tolerate going, oh, well, he's tweaked with the system and he's tried this and he's done some different things. Whereas, previous years, I just don't know if, I don't know if I would tolerate it as much. I'd just be furious that we're not winning games and we're, doing weird shit, not going back to basics or whatever it was. So it's good to enjoy football.
And hey, like after this Wednesday game, we'll have played everyone once, so you can't even throw in the fact that we've had a good run of games or anything like that. We've played everyone once. We're sitting in the top 6 on merit, and then we go into the second half of the season, and everyone knows that we're a second half team, so we'll do even better in the second half. I think that's the way it's going to go, isn't it?
Look, it's hard to argue with that logic, if I'm being honest.
So I'll see how we go. But look, obviously we've got the event of Christmas before our next episode, so a very Merry Christmas to you. If I don't speak to you before then, Dan.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
And Merry Christmas to all the listeners as well. We'll be back to talk Sheffield Wednesday and Boro ahead of the New Year's festivities. But until then, come on, City.